seen in my life. So I'm Edward Johnson. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. Originally, I'm from out 17 ward. Up until I was 9 years old, we moved to the West Bank, and I never liked the West Bank. So I was always back and forth all over. And so I want to get to the core of what really set my life into a spiral as I was coming up. And I can tell you that I don't know how many of y'all ever got whippings on a regular basis, but I was one that got whippings on a regular basis. And I think my problem really began when my mother and my father split up. I always admired my daddy. He was a very humble man. He was very principled, and he was a chef. And there's some things I'll never forget, like he used to run home every day, and I never understood why. And he had told me, see, because I love y'all. And I didn't understand that, but later on in life, my mama told me that every day my father would be coming home from work, a white mob would be running behind him, because it was in a high time of racism. And so I didn't understand that. But once my father and my mother was divorced, I just never adapted to that. And so when my mother remarried to my stepfather, Walter Boykins, was a good man, very good man. Sent all us through private school. Like I always went to a Catholic school. I went to All Saints on the West Bank. Matter of fact, me and Senator Troy Carter, we was in the same class together, and we used to carpool. And so during those times, like I always had issues with authority. Always had issues with authority. So you know I had a problem with a nun, because they were full of authority. And if you act up, they had this paddle they would whip you with. And I hated that paddle, but I got it the most out of all my classmates, because I was always into something. And I think they say you're a product of your environment, which is true, because even though we, from where I'm at in Algiers in the cutoff, the houses are nice, very nice back there, but you know, houses and mentality is different, you know what I'm saying? So it's like the mentality that we was into, it was always like a lot of crime going on, you know, a lot of this and that. So by me rebelling, that fit me right off the top, you know, because I was rebelling from my mom. And one of the things that I was rebelling from is this. Somebody ever told you, just tell me the truth, and I ain't gonna do you nothing. And then I tell them the truth and get beat like, you know, and I'm like, well, that'll never happen again. I'd rather tell a lie and get that whipping, and than to tell the truth and still go get whipped. So all these things happened to me coming up, but two more things that really impressed upon me is that because I was always getting into problems in school, they had this nun, and she didn't really like me. She was my English teacher, but she was a very good English teacher, and she told me something that stuck with me the rest of my life. And when I went to make my first trip to Angola, I thought about that and I cried because it hurted me. She said, "You ain't gonna, little nigga, you ain't gonna be nothing but a jailbird." At the time, that didn't even register to me. It didn't even register to me, but that was one thing. Another thing was that I was really good with sports, and I had a half a scholarship to go to Archbishop Shaw, and that was unheard of because during that time they never gave scholarships to people, right? And so this coach was really good, man. He really perfected my game. So one time I went to the summer league, and I won all the contests. And this white guy was in the locker room with me, and he said, that nigga gotta leave here. I said, what you said? And so back then they had pickforks for your hair, like with the fists on it. And so I pulled it out and ran after him, and he ran to the coach. Coach, that black kid's going crazy. That black kid's going crazy. So all the white guys who heard what happened came to my defense and talked to the coach and told him what happened. So I was very stunned by that and hurt. So I told the coach, I said, look, man, I said, I appreciate everything you've done for me and doing for me. I said, but this is not going to work for me. I said, because I'm a different breed. I said, I'm not going to be coming to you every now and then telling you somebody said this and said that. I'm going to handle it right then. I'm just going to embarrass you, man. This is the story of my life. It's just like when somebody says something out the way or do something, I'm going to address it right there. I'm not waiting on protocol. I'm sorry. So this man tried everything he can to keep me in that school and to keep me there, but eventually I weaved away from it. So to move forward with this is that my first trip to Angola, I was at the age of 19 years old. And I was coming home I was in Gretna. And I didn't feel like walking. And I seen two drunk white guys, and I held them up for their car and took their money, and I left. And so I must have kept that car about 8 months, like it was mine. I was crazy. And so one day, I'm coming from a job in a stolen car. And I got a guy with me from around my house, and he asked me before he got in the car, hey, that car's stolen? I said, nah, man, come on, get in. But it was stolen. And so he came with me, and on my way back to my house to dropping him off, I passed the stop sign, and I was smoking weed at the time. And so I saw the police, and I backed up. He said, oh no, come on, pull over. So I pulled over, and the guy in the car said, man, put the weed out. I said, man, chill out. So I take one more hit, looking at him through the rearview mirror. And when he got close up to me and I hit the window, and he like, that's weed? I said, yeah. He said, man, get out the car. I said, okay. I hit it in first and left, right? So I'm going down the highway. I hit the highway. I get to Blair Street. That's a neighborhood in the cutoff. And they got a roadblock waiting on me. And so at this roadblock, they got their guns pointed out, like they're gonna shoot. So what I did was hit the acceleration like I was gonna run into them, and I hit the sidewalk, and I managed to get past them, but as I was coming back off the sidewalk, I hit a parked car. And in that parked car was a friend of mine who was paralyzed, and the car kind of like exploded. And I'm like, wow. I'm looking at the guy I know, and I'm trying to make a decision whether to get him or get caught. So when I did make up the decision to go and get him, his brother come out the house and say, Ed, go ahead, I got him. I gotta wait. To tell you this story was because this was one of the most profound things I hurt my mama with, because the police came to the house, they staked the house out, and it was all on the levee looking for me, and they was ready to do me something like they doing today. And so I managed to get away from that, and I got caught. And I went to Jefferson Parish, and I got 25 years for that incident. I want to tell you, man, that incarceration is a brutal life. It's brutal to the mind, it's brutal to your emotional health, and to your spiritual health. And when I first went to that place at the age of 19, like, the only thing kept me alive is that I was so angry with everything. And I was full of hate. And so they got a saying that another animal know another animal when they see it. And it's like, people knew that, I don't care how good looking I was, because I was good looking then. You know, I had long hair, I was a light skinned, and you know, had all the girls and stuff, but like, in them, you don't want to be too cute. You know? So I just I went through that situation, and a guy who was with me, who was on the hill with me, he was a guy that I was working out with on the hill. That's where they send you when you first come to the hill. And so two guys, I don't know at the time, it's from around my house. They from out the Fishing Project. But they had been there for a long time. And they went to grab his bag. And I'm looking, and I'm like, what are you doing? So I went to approach the dude, and an older convict, that's what they call people who've been to prison for a long time, once or twice or whatever, and experiencing the jail life. He said, hey, that's not your fight right there. He said, he don't protect himself. You don't do that, man. He said, because you help him right now, he still end up being a homosexual. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to have two enemies while you're here the rest of your life, and this dude's still going to be what he's going to be. So that was my first warning that I had to think. And in the penitentiary, we had a saying, it's not penitentiary, it's pay attention. And that was the most key thing to your survival, is paying attention. And so I was always quick with it and always thinking ahead. So I learned how to maneuver fast, and like, be honest with you, the people I was dealing with in my life had already prepared me for this when I was like 15 years old, because they said, you pitching rocks at the penitentiary, well, you're going to be in prison. Ain't no doubt about it. You're going to be in prison. And they were right. And so my first day in the dormitory, 2 men was killed. One on the side of me, one in the back of the dome. And to see how that happened and to witness why it happened, didn't even realize that was traumatic to me. Because I saw so much, but not realizing that was really traumatic. To actually see somebody get stabbed to death right next to me, and watch him lose his life. He didn't even make it to the infirmary. Watch him lose his life. So as time progressed on, this was all was going on back then. It was nothing but raping, nothing but killing. But my mind was different. Like, when I got there, it was like hell was reality seen too late. And it was like, I gotta do something. I gotta get myself together. So I started reading, writing, and learning. And that's a taboo in the prison system, because you got these ignorant people gonna be like, oh, you wait till you come to penitentiary, now you gonna learn how to read and write and all this old stuff. You know, people making fun of you about these type of things. But me, I always made my own way, and nobody never told me what I was gonna do and what I couldn't do. And so one day I looked myself in the mirror, and I seen how my face was like, I scared myself. And I didn't realize what it was until I thought about it. We are in a place where nobody is happy. Everybody's mad all the time. And I started taking this characteristic on. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta change this. I don't want people to be scared of me before they even get to know me. And you can always tell back at one point when God was coming home from prison, because they always have on some white t-shirts and jeans, and they got the pants all cuffed and starched with creases, and their bushes hanging out, you know. You can always tell, you know, because the thing about it is that you have, and I was just telling Judge Smith, is that it's a big time gap. You know, it's a big time gap. Like, I came in at 19, but when I left at 27, I was still 19 years old. And so I didn't learn, you know, you can teach a child, it's like a child can be intelligent, but that don't make him mature. Maturity is a lesson that comes with learning how to adapt emotionally, and to actually not act out of character every time a situation take place. That was me. I mean, no patience, mad at everything, challenging everything, don't tell me nothing. But as you walk in life, you'll learn about all that later on, because I did too. Because, like, I come home and I got frustrated that things wasn't moving fast enough for me. And so I started robbing banks. I planned it out to the T, and when it worked, it was like I kept doing it. And it's like I had so much money I couldn't even count it, I had to weigh it. And it was like I just was doing the wrong thing. But God God had a plan for me, because through it all, he kept sending signs to me through dreams that I needed to slow down, because he knew I had a bigger calling. I had a bigger thing for me to do in my life, but I was ignoring that. So I ignored all the signs, ended up back in prison with 189 years for bank robbery, attempt murder on the police, and kidnapping. Yeah, I had did it all. And when I got in that cell, that's when everything just dawned on me, like, boy, what you done did? What you done did? So, a lot of y'all didn't know, y'all see this cane, but I was in a wheelchair for like 26 years. And for them 26 years, like, I even contemplated suicide, because I was like, I'm not going back to prison in no wheelchair. I'm not going to deal with all this stuff. And I wanted to take my life. And I did try. It was a small try, because like when I broke the skin on my wrist, like it was raining really hard and thunder and lightning was coming. And when I broke the skin, boom, I heard the thunder. And that thunder led me to look out the window. And I seen this spider trying to web a web, and the wind just kept blowing it back and down. I'm like looking at it, distracting me from what I was thinking about doing. And I looked at this thing for a long time till I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning, man, the sun was out, the rain had stopped, and man, I looked in that corner and saw that spider. Man, that spider was sitting in that web so beautiful in the middle, and the wind was blowing it back and forth. I'm like, God damn. You know what that told me? Ed, you about to go through a storm, and you got to keep webbing your web and never stop, because what you about to deal with right now is serious, and you got to keep moving, and you got to keep going until you finish this web. And that's what I did. So when I went back to prison, I had to start doing some things different. I started meditating a lot. Because like I'm in a wheelchair now, and I'm like not getting the proper treatment. I'm always fighting with the people with things like accommodations and tearing up my wheelchairs, because transportation. At the time, I didn't have no control over my bowel movements. It was so embarrassing at that time that I didn't want to go to my appointments and stuff, because I was afraid I was going to lose my bowels in close sections with people. It was really humiliating, and it was hard, and I had to fight through all of that. So I started reading all kind of books on meditation, acupuncture, started studying about myself, started reading a whole lot of different kind of books that was going to better me, because I knew I couldn't sing, dance, and rap. I had to invest in my mind. I had to do something different. You know what I'm saying? So I educated myself. And as always, I always got in trouble for being the person who always fighting for the underdog. Story of my life. Always fought bullies. Always got in trouble for fighting bullies. Always. And it was never always my fault. So I had to get through that. So on this journey, after learning how to navigate myself through all these different mazes I was going through, because I went on the parole board and they asked me, man, you in a wheelchair. Who you had a fight with? And you in a wheelchair. Why you got 189 write-ups? And I laughed when they asked me that. I said, back then, I probably would have cursed this board out. Because I came in here very angry. I came in here in a wheelchair. That was a mind-changing thing for me. I came in here like I took my life and I destroyed it. I said, so I wasn't adapting to all this right away. I said, so when you see this consistent 10 years of foolishness, that was how long it took me to adapt to everything that I was dealing with. But now when you see this other 12 years, that's my transformation. That's when I made up my mind that enough is enough, and that I wanted to do what I had to do, and I wanted to get somewhere. So I started studying everything that I knew that was going on out here, and I started reading and writing things to people, and I was getting knowledge from the outside that wasn't in the inside. And so I was taking that knowledge I was getting from the outside, because it's like a breath of fresh air in a stale environment. And knowledge is power. And a lot of people don't realize that you can't go nowhere your mind can't take you. So if you don't have the information, then you lost. If I give you a brand new, let's just say a cell phone, it's the smartphone. The smartphone's still smarter than some of the people who got it, because they don't even know how to operate it. They don't even try to learn how to operate all the features. And a lot of people, they trip out on me like I'm contemporary. I ain't supposed to be contemporary. I'm supposed to be a throwback. But no, I ain't made that decision for me. I made a different decision. So I keep up with the time. So I'm operating out of Windows 10. I'm letting y'all know. Yeah, so I got plenty of perspective around here. So, and that's the whole deal about life. It's like having perspective, because what I've run into when I came home, the first thing I did, I had it all planned out what I was going to do. And the first thing I did was got back in school. I got in school. I went to theological seminary first, because that's where I started at in Angola. That's where I got a lot of my credits at. Now I'm Muslim, but I was studying Christian theology because I'm curious about everything. And so it just gave me a broader view about everything I needed to know. So I learned Latin. I learned Hebrew, because I wanted to know what the original script was really talking about. Because in Arabic, in Islam, if you don't know Arabic, then you don't know the Quran. And so you have to learn these things to understand it. And so I just took off there, and I was short of 2 credits because I didn't have the money to finish, because at that school you got to pay out of pocket. I had got blessed with a scholarship on the first 2 semesters, and I had got blessed with a little blessing for some of the reverends who actually helped me get through, but I couldn't finish the last 2 because money was gone. So I said, well, I ain't gonna stop. I enrolled in SUNO. I got in SUNO, and I went to school and graduated 2020 for psychology with a minor in addictive behavior. And I'm currently getting ready to start February the 20th. I'm getting ready to start at Columbia University for IT, cybersecurity, and coding. And so, why I did that? Because when I come home, I got a job working with the Innocent Project. And because the grant ran out, my whole life, financial life, went on hold for 7 months. Picture, I got a car note now, I got rent to pay, I got all these things. And for a person coming out of prison, if they wouldn't have been in Windows 10, they'll be back in jail. Because their perspective about how they were going to handle the situation would be totally different from how I'm thinking. Because I understand what strategy is, and I always say you got to use strategy over strength, because that's the key, and you always got to bring water to fire. That's your knowledge. And when you understand how to apply that, you understand that you can get by with any situation without you blowing up. Because you got to have a common denominator to leave them improper fractions alone when you're dealing with things. Straight up. That's how life is. And so I realized that. So I went to school, did that, and I'm still in school trying to do something else, because I needed another skill set in case the place I'm working at now decide that, hey, this granny ran out. I got to find out what I'm going to do. So this job promising 6 figures when I'm done. And so now I can actually try to see myself financially elevating, and I can see myself actually trying to make a decent living, and take what I know and teach it to the grassroots. Because that's another thing. A lot of times our people don't share what they know, because a lot of our people, they just leave us behind. And so that's another thing about my lessons in life, that, I had this discussion with C. Murder when he was in Angola with me, and I was telling him that, one of the biggest problems that we have in our communities, like, we not having enough people, exercising their financial power to the extent of helping people that can actually make a difference, and they got to depend on too many other entities that ain't promising, and on top of that, we don't have, most of the time our real bright students are being kidnapped to other institutions, and they taking what they know and benefiting it from themselves. Our community not benefiting from our young people intelligence. Other people benefiting from it. That's a problem. And it's like we never reach back to help each other. And that's a problem. And so me, I'm just one person. I'm a small fish in a big tank. And my thing is that if I can feed one fish to make that fish strong, and that fish feed another fish to make that fish strong, before you know it, the whole tank will be big, and we won't be no more many fishes around, because we nourishing one another. And that's what it's all about. And so my whole struggle in this whole life for me has been like, I can't tell you everything in this one setting, and that's why I'm writing a book, because there's so much to say about it, and there's so many different angles that, everybody in each one of you lives, like, I don't know what you're doing, I don't know what your future plans is, but the key to everything is, and this is something I found out when I was in school with a lot of young people, I found out that nobody know where they're going. How you not know where you're going when you got knowledge? That means you don't have knowledge. You have no direction. You just getting information, but you have no direction. That's serious. Because if you leave here, you should know exactly where you're going and what you're going to do. So something missing there. And so I had discovered that about myself, and it's called knowledge of self. I had to learn who I was in order for me to decide where I was going to go. So it's like everybody who learning some kind of skill, sometimes it's better to go out on your own. I really get what's going on in this society today, why a lot of young people are fading away from a whole lot of different things, because everybody want to be their own boss, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. And sometimes it takes you to take that step out to be your own boss, because if you got that kind of passion for that, then that's good. Everybody don't have that. And I look at a lot of the rappers that's young that made it and doing what they're doing. You know what I discovered about what they're doing after the fact? After they got rich, they started learning more. See, their mind started expanding. You know why? Because they started seeing more. You don't see what they see. And if you can see what they see, then you can know why they're elevating. So we got to kind of spread ourselves around so we can actually learn different things from different people, So I'm going to close, because I know we started late, and I wanted people to ask questions if they want to ask questions. But I'm going to leave you with this. Your struggle don't really define who you are. It's how you react to your struggle that really gonna define who you are. Because I had reacted, messed up in a lot of my situations. My reaction to it, I got bad results. And I ended up losing 27 years of my life away from my family, away from people who really needed me. And I lost that. And some things I'm not gonna get back. And knowing that, like, people could just give their life up in this day and time, like they don't know what's on the other side. I go talk to these juveniles, these same juveniles you read about and hear about on the news. I go talk to those guys. And you know what? It's hurting. I leave there crying because I see myself. Because some of them guys are never gonna get another chance because of some of the stuff they've done. And some of them, they're gonna realize that the streets distracted them from their true potential. All these distractions distracted them from who they can really be. You don't have to go to jail to realize you can get a GED or get a college degree, man. You don't have to go to jail to realize you got skills that you can pay your bills with. You don't have to do all that. You don't have to do that. Because when they get you there, their plan is to destroy you. Mind, body, and soul. They don't care if you're woman or man. Midget, it don't matter. No discrimination. Commit a crime, you're gone. Ain't no, and this ain't no scare tactic, this is reality. It's how it is. And women are going to prison at an alarming rate now. And it's like, they serving you. They serving you. So, I'm going to tell you now, but if a situation ever come your way that you have to sit down and pause and think, man, think about water pouring on some fire, man, so you won't be in no situation where you got to spend 50 years. People that been doing that type of time in prison, or 30 years, or 10 years. Any kind of years you're doing away from society is a loss of your wages and your time and your family, because now they got to pay for everything for you. You dependent on everything from them. And that's something I hate. I hate depending on people. So I'm going to close with that, and I want to thank y'all for inviting me into your space. And I want to thank Dr. Ishmael for this, and the staff, and the students, and my family, my friends who come out to support me. And if y'all have any questions, y'all can ask me any questions y'all want to ask me.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today. I have a couple of questions, but first, can you tell us what books you read when you were in prison that inspired you?
Okay, so I got the book list right here.
Oh, perfect.
I was prepared. I got the book list, and that's not even half the books. And I'm gonna do another list and give it to Nadia when I'm done. But I must have read over 1,000 books since. Just think about it, 27 years, man. That's all I did. I had more books than I had clothes. They used to be mad when they transferred me. This man in wheelchair got all these books. They used to be mad. Like, why are you mad? I'm just trying to learn something. Anything else?
My brother.
Hey, brother.
I just want to say that you always talk about you, always brag about you. I respect you a lot. I think you're enough time to be president.
Appreciate it, brother. Anybody else have any questions?
I have one. How significant was your faith?
Oh man. So the thing about that was for me is that I noticed that, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this up about the cell blocks. I did 6 years straight on cell confinement. And that's the worst thing in the world, besides being an open population. Being in a cell is one of the most crucial things that a person can go through in their life. It come to the point where I felt everything was caving in on me. And so that's when I really started reaching out to God. And I really started asking him to humble me and to protect me and to encourage me. And I noticed this, that when I really sincerely give myself through meditation and through prayer, I always got a message and I always got a sign of hope. And what I want to tell you is this, I always had a dream that I was going to be home. He always would send me some kind of relief, and his dream used to seem so real. And I had to take it serious because I was getting all these dreams before I come to prison. The signs telling me, stop. Stop. Man, go back to school. Do what you gotta do. Stop all this stuff you're doing. But I just kept going. I was passing all the signs of red lights, stop signs, everything. Until I got stopped. And I almost got killed in the shootout with the police. I was almost killed. Twice. And so God really humbled my spirit. And when I told you that story about the spider, I didn't tell you that the next day, like this lady, Sister Angela Sanders from Mississippi, she came, she sent me a letter and she sent me a Bible saying special ed. And so how that come to be is that two girls I used to date came to see me and the people wouldn't let them in. And so they overheard Sister Sanders saying she was going to pray for her son. And they asked her to pray for me. And me and this lady have a friendship to this very day. She's in New York right now. But she always said, Ed, you coming home. She said, you ain't supposed to be in there. You know, the judge used to call me Robin Hood because when they did a precinct investigation, they found out that I was helping a lot of people. Like in Christopher Homes, we used to give haunted houses for the kids. And this is funny because before the robbery, we were supposed to be getting the most and everything because after the robbery, we were supposed to go back and do the Halloween thing for the kids. Didn't make it that time. So, but the intention was there. But the thing is that I helped put people through school. When I was doing all this wrong, I had friends who didn't have the rest of the money to finish up. I had friends who was in college that didn't have a whole lot, and to keep them from getting in trouble, I used to give them money and let them use my car. Say, man, y'all stay out of trouble, man, here. You know, like Miss Dr. Kamisha Rose, her husband, they went to Southern and Baton Rouge, and you know, she know a lot of the guys, like Aeneas Williams who played football, all those guys, Shaq, I knew all them guys. You know, I used to be running in a circle, you know, and but God was my key, and still my key, and that's my strength. And I know today God ain't famous. He ain't too famous, and I know why, because a lot of us been bombarded with trick knowledge, so we don't really understand how God really works. Everybody think God a magician and he gonna just pop up. Like, no, it don't work like that. So a lot of people give up. Now you just think about it. My grandmother told me all my life, just pray to Jesus and everything will be all right. So I prayed to Jesus. My mom was sick. She died. I'm married with God now. See, that's a bad concept to give to people because you got to give people the right understanding of how God actually operates in your life and how you get him to operate for you. People don't know that. So it's all the understanding why we have so many atheists and all this other stuff because they've been through something and they never got over it. But I understand why. That's it. Anybody else?
But thank you for sharing your story. And
Appreciate it.
everything that you've been through, you look good.
Thank you.
Great.
That's another sign from God. It had nothing to do with me. A girl told me one time, she saw me, she said, boy, you was fighting when you was fighting grown men when you was young. And you ain't got a scratch in your face. I don't even notice that. Somebody else noticed that for me. You know, I used to be somebody now.
We want to present you with an award for
man.
speaking.
Oh, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Who's been here? Man, this is great. I really appreciate this, man. Believe it or not, that this is what I do. I be working with people, trying to help people think in a different way. I done been in situations since I've been home with guys who done things that dealing with the law that they didn't understand what they was doing, and I had to coach them through that to help them and help their family with it. Because it's like, it's too late when you do it. Once you pull the trigger, it's over. Now you're in a whole nother set of circumstances that's you're not even ready for. Like these kids, they can do whatever. They smart, but they're not developed mentally to deal with the consequences. So when they get to the consequences, everybody who knows something or don't know something, he did it, all of them did it, just to get out of it. But that's just a defense mechanism because they're still kids. And they're growing up in a world that they don't understand it. They don't understand the consequences of it. Because, man, when they see what's waiting in Angola, it's worse than when I left. It's worse. I talk to these guys every day. Somebody calling me from there every day because I'm still helping people with their legal stuff and with other things. And also I'm constantly people, family members who got guys coming home because they're not the same mentally no more. After being locked up all that time, I go see a counselor. I ain't worse than some of them, but they got some of them that they ain't adapting. And that's just because of the conditions. You go through something over and over again, it's just like anybody who deal with trauma. And we traumatized. You know, you got people telling you you're not gonna be this. You got people telling you, you know, you coming back. When you come home, you coming back. All negative. You gotta fight through that. You know?
Ed, I'm as you're talking, I'm reflecting and thinking, what is your position? What is your position on the young men that they have just recently taken to Angola because they could not properly secure them here? And I'm speaking of the minors. Can you kind of talk about whether you think that was a good move by the governor to put them in in Angola just to contain them or restrain them?
So you know I have a different perspective about all that because one thing about our government, the only thing they're concerned about is solving the problem. They're not worrying about the results of the problem being solved. That's what people who have social justice come in at, to look at the thing from a big, broader picture. Because if you've never been to prison, you can't tell me a damn thing about it. You don't know how these people feel, you don't know what they're going through, and you don't know what it takes to help them. Because all you're doing is signing papers and saying, put them up. So what they know they have to do everything by the law. So that means that, and I don't know how this is gonna work because I don't know how it's working because I never really checked in on it like that. They can't have nobody from Angola dealing with them, period, because they're minors. That's one thing. But what people are afraid of is that that's gonna happen anyway without people knowing. So they got people want to be watchdogs to make sure that they're not getting that kind of treatment going on with them, right? So that means that the employees that work with the juveniles, they're supposed to be the only ones specifically dealing with them. And so you just got to make sure that everything is being done within the law. So I'm going to say this. It don't matter if you take, Malcolm said this one time. He said, and it made so much sense, if I take a kitten, and put him in the oven, that don't make him a biscuit. So if I take an individual and put him on Angola plantation, he's still locked up. He's still going through rigid rules and regulations. That's just my point I'm trying to make about space. What they do when they put them in those spaces is the key thing we want to be concerned about. Not that because everybody here in Angola know what it's about. They're like, oh my God. That's a big old phone. You can get lost on that phone. So apparently, people who watching these things like lawyers and everybody, they have to make sure that these juveniles they're on that ground, but they're not being in the midst of the inmates. And I'm hearing that that's one of the things that's restricted from them. They can't be around the inmates, nor the free personnel that's there. So everything that's there, they just get the space. And those people who's supposed to be watching over them, they're supposed to be the ones watching over them. So Long as that's happening, that's the key thing.
You think that'll be some type of reform mechanism for them, for those young men?
So I got a different idea about reform, baby. I'm gonna tell you, because this the thing. I don't believe in rehabilitation, because you cannot build something that was never built, rebuild something that was never built from the start. So they have no foundation, and so the system is not really concerned about rehabilitation. They're concerned about putting programs together and just sending you through that. Your transformation comes from your own work, because they're not trying to do that for you. You got to apply yourself. That's with anything in life.
That's right.
You got to apply yourself. You can be in school all day long and you can read and write and not know a damn thing when you get out of here. But you got to apply what you know, and that's one of the things that I had to learn to do, is to learn how to apply what I learned. And when you do that, you're going to see your life being different, because you getting paid for what you know and you getting played for what you don't know. That's street rule too.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? I know y'all got some questions, man. I know y'all running around here all shy, huh?
What was one of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome after you came out of jail, President of being incarcerated for 27?
First of all, it was a few things, and it's still a thing. Housing. See, because I've been incarcerated, nobody want to put me in their place. Nobody trusts me. So even with jobs, like, it was just so happened, ain't nothing but God, that the job I'm on now needed somebody like me to operate what they got going. That's how it was, and I'm just tired of that. So that's why I'm going back to school to do something else. So that was a struggle, and housing is one of the major things going on. So I'm trying to buy a house now. I'm trying to, because I'm gonna tell you, when I went to Suno, I was operating off $756 disability check. That's it. So I had to budget that every day, plus my student loans. I got every scholarship they ever had, I went at them. Every grant, I went at them. I'm talking about aggressively went at them. I mean, because I knew I needed this money, right? And I just recently found out, because of the job I'm working on, that I didn't know anything about CAP, that the people who was funding my education, they shortchanged me. I told you, get paid for what you know and paid for what you don't know. I don't supposed to have no student loans paying for it. Under the law, they were supposed to pay for everything. After Pell Grant didn't cover everything, I didn't realize CAP was going to protect me to make sure that was happening. They give back federal money at an alarming large rate all the time, because they don't want to use the money for people. So now I'm in a position to help people who've been in my situation to get the money that they're supposed to have. So that was the thing that I had to deal with. I got put out of Suno campus after COVID. So picture this. I already had a feeling they were gonna put me out because they wanted the room. I went and bought a car with that disability check, but I had good credit. I already knew how to build my credit up. I had a 710 credit limit. I knew I was gonna get it. And I needed that car because I knew I was getting ready to get put out of this place. So just in time, I got the car. A week later, they put me out. I had already secured me a storage to put all my stuff in. I slept in my car 10 days because I refused to ask for help. 10 days before I actually got some help. And so I used to sell plates on Southern campus as a little side hustle. And man, I did good. I was by myself in a chair, rolling with it. They call me Meals on Wheels. I was rolling with it. But I'm telling you that if there's not a door, you gotta create a door. And that's where I was at. I'm like, I ain't going back to prison. I ain't crying, whining, or complaining. I'm gonna think of something, because I know I can cook. So this what I did. I gave everybody a love tree. Everybody got love. I said, here, man, try that out. This is what I'm doing. Take a picture of it. And everybody I dealt with, I ain't have to wait on my money. They know it was good. They pay me before they get the meal. Because when it's gone, it's gone. So I did it like that to keep from having to run around with the food and don't know who gonna buy it. So I gave everybody a love plate. Man, try this out. This is what I'm gonna be doing next week, man. Here y'all go. And I did that on my food stamps. When it came back, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to encourage you that there's too many perspectives, man. You gotta operate out of window 10, I'm telling you. Got a lot of good things inside them, you know? So that's what I did to survive. Anybody else?
So what's your best advice to give to someone that was like going down the same road as you were like in your 20s? Or do you think you get through to the people or the kids that you see now?
So me, like when I go talk to those juveniles, the only thing I do is tell them. First I tell them, I ask them a question. I say, hey man, what you doing up in here? Oh man, I said, well, how you spending your time? Well, I'm playing chess. I know how to play chess. They're doing everything but read. They're doing everything but read. They fighting. They doing all this old crazy stuff. I said, man, look here. And I told them all. I have them all in the day room, and I be like, check this out. I said, man, see why you up in here doing all this? You know what the people over on the other side doing? They're plotting and planning. Put your tail away forever. I said, you know what you need to be doing? I said, you need to get you a book, a law book. You need to tell the people to give you a criminal code of procedure for children. And you need to learn every step that they about to take on you so you can know what's going on, so you can inform your lawyer of how to deal with you. You need to get these people in this institution to get your law library straight, because that's what you're going to need. If you don't know a word, don't pass it up. Go get the law dictionary and learn that word. You got 365 days out of a year. Man, you can learn one word a day and know 365 words in 1 year. That's a lot. And then your mind going to expand, and you're going to learn 2 words a day, 3 words a day. I said, but what you doing now, you're not going to make it. So I give them instructions about what's about to happen to them while they're going there. I don't tell people, don't do this, don't do that. You know why? People told me, hey, listen, it's a choice. It's a choice. I'm going to drop the seed. Somebody going to pick it up and grow from it, because everybody not operating out of the same program. You got some brothers who seriously got some serious mental issues that they need professional help with. That's just bottom line. And you got some people who can think for a long period of time and focus a long period of time. When you got other people, you got to meet them where they at. So if you're a fighter, I'm about to take you to the boxing ring. You like to fight? I'm gonna get this out you. And you're going to see somebody calm down. Because the pointers will calm you down. And that energy that you got into you. I done seen a lot of guys who couldn't read or write get into the boxing ring, calm their whole mindset down, and then you take your time and teach them. It's different kind of ways that you got to meet people on their own level. Because you got some youngsters that's really aggressive because they've been through something. And they don't feel like nobody going to understand them. They don't feel like nobody even care. And that's the truth. That's what's going on out here. They don't feel like nobody cares. So when I go there, they be sending for me. I ain't been there in a while because I've been working, but the warden be sending for me to come talk to them. And it's a shame to see that some of them ain't gonna never leave there, and that hurts me. Because I see the potential in a lot of them. They smart, they just don't have directions. They never been taught morals and principles. Morals and principles take you a long way. That's how I come up. Even in the game, you had morals and principles. You just didn't do certain things. You never hurt no old person. Oh, boy, if I heard you broke in Miss Betty's house, I'm coming to find you. You ain't gonna do it no more. Give her stuff back. How you gonna take something from somebody who ain't got nothing? That don't make sense to me. So you just gotta, they don't have lessons like that no more. Nobody teaching people anything. And let's alone even getting people to listen to you, to hear. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, most of the women are more open-minded than some of the guys. Like they want better. But if men ain't leading, women gotta lead themselves. And it's a shame. So you know what I do? I help young people learn the lessons they need to learn about how to treat people. Because at this day and time, nobody really treating people like they're supposed to. And I'm saying that they got a lot of smart young guys that's really making things happen for themselves. It's just not enough of them. It's just not enough of them. Look at the room. Look at just a few brothers in here trying to make a difference in themselves by being in school. And look at all the women. That's letting you know. Y'all in trouble. How you gonna find somebody when they all locked up or dead? That's scary. It's something to think about. Something to think about, man. We had plenty when I was coming up, too many.
Yeah.
You know, but it's different. It's very different. And so some people don't know what it used to be like. When I was coming up, OGs used to pull out a coat. You don't have that no more. But I don't want to listen to no OG. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter. You had a question, baby?
Listening to you talk and trying to wrap my head around a lot of the things that you were saying got me thinking maybe you could give me some insight on a personal situation. So how do you handle speaking as a family member, a sister specifically? How do you handle somebody who coming out of jail, coming out of prison, been locked up their whole childhood, probably longer than you? Like, how do you handle them first coming out? Like, this their first time home in 15 years, you know?
I deal with that every day. People who I knew coming home. The thing is this. First of all, where a lot of family members make mistakes, you got to remember that they meant it. No matter how old they are, they meant it. So you can't be too hard on them, because this is the situation. Like for the guys, like first, some of them who haven't been studying and learning and trying to progress themselves, automatically they're gonna have an inferiority complex. Automatically they're gonna feel, lacking in something, because a lot of them waste their time when they was in prison. You can tell the ones who actually waste their time that was in prison by the things they doing.
Right.
So if they waste their time and they was just chasing behind drugs, chasing behind the free women,
They're gonna do the same thing when they get out.
transformation. So you know what you gotta do? You gotta give them their space. And if they take this advice, like, man, why don't you go see counseling, man? Black people don't like that. I ain't crazy. There you are. Crazy is all outdoors. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying crazy in the sense that this world you in now is different from what you just left. You're gonna find them doing things from an institutional point of view that they're only used to doing, right? If I've been around men 20 years, when I'm talking to you in a certain way, I'm looking at you like you somebody in prison. And I'm gonna give you an example of that. In prison, men always talking loud because there's always a lot of noise going on, first of all. Second of all, when they talking, you gotta be sure. If you talking aggressive, that's like, what? When you talking aggressive to them, because in prison, aggressive talk leads to altercations. So if you're a female and you talking aggressive to a guy coming from prison, you might get hit. And he ain't hitting you, he hitting the situation. Because he learning how to defend himself, because he feeling like you coming to be a threat to him. And he reacting for only thing he knows psychologically. They don't even understand that. That's why a lot of guys, when they come home, they always fall into that domestic violence stuff and they go right back to prison. I had 3 friends do the same thing. I told them over and over again. But some things people got to learn in a timely fashion. But you got to be careful not to put yourself in the way of somebody that's going to do what they want to do anyway. You can only offer them advice to go get help. Like, man, you want a job? Let me help you go find a job. Say, man, you gotta, when you notice certain attitudes about them, like, say, man, you can't do that out here, man. You gotta kind of like calm down. You're talking too aggressive to these people. People don't understand that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta kind of calm that down. You gotta work on that. That's up. We got groups, and it's called, the group we got, it's like all the formerly incarcerated people. It's a peer group. And I can give you the number to the guy who actually run the peer group, and it's for all the guys who come home, and they tell their stories about how certain things happen and it brings them back to penitentiary or wherever they was at, to kind of like say how they reaction to things, to the world, how they reacting to the world from an institutional point of view. And so we talk about those things, and we tell them alternatives on how to handle those kind of things. You know, so that's a serious constant for people coming home, and they respect the people who been to prison talking about it rather than somebody who never been there, don't know nothing about it. You know, they're gonna feel like they're just giving them some kind of clinical evaluation, and they're gonna have a perplex about it. But I can give you the guy's phone number, and they have it on Tuesdays, and they started meeting again, so it's on Washington Street where Vote, I don't know if you ever heard of Vote, but Vote, that little place on Washington, they meet there the first month, the second Tuesday of the month, and the third Tuesday, no, the last Tuesday of the month. They meet there. We was doing virtual because of the pandemic, but now they're doing it different. But you can offer him to go there if he will go. You know, so everybody just not gonna, you can bring them to the water, but everybody ain't gonna drink it. And you can't fault yourself for that. You know, you can't fault yourself for that. And a lot of people gonna have problems with trying to change. A lot. Anybody else? All right. It was nice coming out, man. I appreciate y'all.